right, Flight Sim community, hello. This is Beetle Beast. Here we are, Flight Sim 2024 on the next leg. I can't remember what number we're on. This might be number 15. I don't know. Maybe I'll put that up there. I normally listen through these at least this far when I'm trying to make the videos to put out there on the web, just to make sure the audio is all working. We're on the ground, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We're going to hop on over to Montgomery, Alabama. It's 82.5 miles away. We're on runway 4. We're going to be making a turn to the east, southeast, 135 degrees, and heading outbound from there. Nothing special. Good weather here, good weather there. Just a nice early morning. Looks like it's kind of, I don't want to say foggy, but, you know, clearly a little bit on the foggier side. Visibility seems to be down a tad. But yeah, we should have a pretty decent flight over there. Everything's looking good. Power's coming in. Here we go. Let's get on the way. There's our airspeed. And a little bit of back pressure. Let the airplane come right off the ground. The gear's coming up. Don't think I opened my cowl flaps. We should probably do that and make sure our temps are all staying nice and happy. And with that, let's start making that turn off towards the east. So I did a little bit of flying in the game last night. Decided to see kind of how the airplane worked in a little bit of IFR. The only thing I could find was up in Vermont, which worked out pretty well. I did a little bit of flying up in Burlington, and it was only like marginally IFR, but it was good to fly it in some real weather type situations. There was snow falling up there. You were below the freezing level, obviously. In the clouds, in the soup, you were definitely getting icing. Got the side windows to ice up, the windshield to ice up. I couldn't see the wings very well, unfortunately, to be able to tell just what the ice accretion was on the wings, but the airplane flew fine. It seemed to work very well with the propeller de-icing system. Seemed to work just fine. Didn't notice any loss of airspeed or performance in that regard. And otherwise, it was kind of nice just getting to play around with the instrumentation to set up for, in my case here, a conventional ILS approach. Came around, did an approach, did a landing, shot it all the way down. I stayed in the cockpit even though I was VMC at that point, just to keep looking inside as opposed to outside. I mean, flew me all the way down right to the threshold. I will say what's interesting here, of course, is that the behavior of the needles in this airplane are better than in any of the other simulations I've seen inside a flight sim, regarding either your HSI here or the information that's presented on this OBS down here. Both of these displayed the information exactly in the method that I would have expected. And not so much just that they displayed the information, but they reacted in a way that was very much identical to how aircraft instrumentation typically reacts. And then, of course, I got to look around trying to figure out a few items in the plane to kind of see what it was I was doing and how things kind of worked. So down here, there's this little someone says HSI source. Clicking this over does seem to make a change. It swaps it to nav. However, it wasn't coupling for the localizers, what I had noticed. It wasn't coupling with the localizer. In order to do that, you have to turn this one up here from GPS to nav. And like I said, I don't know if it gives me the same information. It was a little bit confusing. We might play with that. I can't remember if Birmingham has a VOR there. Let's see what we can do there. Because as of right now, of course, this thing is coupled to the GPS, and it's going to give us our path based off of the information that's right here. You know, this is your course deviation indicator right there being displayed. That's the same thing that you see down here on this HSI. If it was coupled over here to your OBS, you would see it there instead. But the method in which it works is, you know, essentially identical. It's just the display is a little bit different. So all that said, I'm not quite sure. I haven't figured out quite yet exactly when I switch this over to there Now it shows RNAV, which should be GPS navigation, but it's not. And I don't think I have. I mean, because like I said, there's not a Loran in here that's giving you a separate RNAV source. It should be showing me exactly what this is. And then the fact that you've got this arrow coming up and going down, it makes me think that it's not working at all, which would make sense if it has a source that doesn't exist. You know, it's just going to be trying to pick up any type of signal that it can find, even if it doesn't have the ability to find a signal. So then you start getting really erroneous readings, which is somewhat similar to how, I talked about it yesterday's flight. That's similar to how gyroscopes fail. They may give you what indicates a turn in the direction that they're going because they are still spinning. They're just spinning not at a rate necessary to maintain their accuracy and their course information. So if I click off the nav button here now, so now I'm in the nav source. Now it's definitely should be coupled to whatever's over here. But yeah, see, it's behaving exactly the same way, which tells me that it's not getting a good source. There's something out there that's picking up. I'm not flagged saying that it's broken, but it definitely does not have a good source of information. So I'll swap that back to GPS. I'll swap this one back to nav1, and now it's going to be coupled here and there and doing its thing. So, like I said, I find that to be a bit odd. And let's see if I go to GPS again, and then if I swap that to RNAV. Yeah, so like I said, it just now I've got a nav flag, so it shouldn't be getting any type of information that's useful. But then getting this one obviously gives me my arrow pointing me towards my waypoint that I'm going towards. So, like I said, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. We're gonna have to take a look at that and get that figured out. But that'll be coming up here soon. It's kind of a neat little lake. Kind of reminds me of a water ski lake. I'd actually almost bet that's exactly what it is. You've got two little turnarounds at the end. You can go fast, spin around, go fast the other direction, spin around, etc. Yeah, almost guarantee it's for water skiing. Alright, so here we are up at altitude. We'll pull this back. We're at 23 inches of manifold pressure. We'll go with about 2,400 RPM. Get our mixture pulled out a little bit. But yeah, the airplane, it's kind of a neat setup because it's very well adapted to IFR flying. You know, like I said, it's well equipped here anyway for it. With the HSI, with an OBS, the fact that you have your DME information directly underneath you. You know, if you're tracking inbound, outbound on localizer, inbound, outbound on a VOR radio, all of this information is phenomenal to have right here. Additionally, directly below that, you have your chronometer here. So if you're trying to do your outbound leg, procedural turn, or even trying to establish yourself in a hold, you've basically got, as long as all your instrumentation is working, everything you need right here in front of you, which is pretty slick. So I think it worked really well. You know, there's definitely a learning curve with it. But if you've got experience flying IFR in any of the light aircraft inside of flight sim, I think you'll adapt to this one pretty quick and pretty easy. You know, it came to me pretty naturally, and obviously I've flown this game a lot. I've also got a lot of flying experience, obviously. And a lot of time flying in light airplanes for years, and teaching in light airplanes for years, and flying jet airplanes for years. So I've got a lot of experience doing all of that. But yeah, I think I would say that it comes pretty easy here on for any of these for flying this with instruments. It's really well set up for it, and it works really well. So I enjoyed it. It was quite fun. Like I said, there will be a tutorial coming up here at some point, just because I think this thing is really well set to do an instrument flying tutorial, and to give people a better idea as to how to fly different approaches. So I think we'll do a couple of very short videos here, probably something that's going to be a precision approach, something that'll be a non-precision approach, maybe an arc or something similar to that effect. And we'll go from there. It should be fun. I've also been attempting to get a little bit more into our KLN 90 over here. Like I said, as opposed to the time I've been spending, of course, in Garmin 530 and 430 equipped airplanes. So this has been kind of fun just to play around with a little bit and click some buttons and kind of see where we're at and what's going on and what we're doing. Let's go ahead and turn the flight director on. We'll turn on our autopilot for a minute, let that thing kind of handle us there. Altitude, I'd like to be at 35, not 36. Engage. Assuming it's trying to say that it's already there. Alright, so autopilot's on, nav mode, altitude hold. Everything's indicated that it's working. So, from here, let's go ahead and see if we can pull up information as to where we're going. That's present position. Direct track to Montgomery. Gives you your minimum safe altitude, en route safe altitude right there. That's kind of nice to see. As you indicated, currently 3,500 feet. Yeah, let's try over here. Go with the big page. That's calibration. Which, this is kind of slick. So you should be able to... Let's see if we can try that out. Because I remember playing with this inside of the Skyhawks back in the day. So if I come in here, indicated altitude is, go over here, 3,500 feet. Our barometer is 30.28, it looks like. Come on. Oh, come on, do. Pressure altitude 1,300 feet. Temperature right now is about, looks like about 10 degrees. Density altitude 3,300 feet. Alright, so we've got that. Let's get rid of the cursor. Go to the next page. Calibrated airspeed, which in this case here should be exactly what we're seeing. About 160 knots. True airspeed of 164 knots. So if we were to take that and our 10 degrees, which is right there, 3,500 feet, right about there. That says we're about 170. So that's a little, 164. Yeah, I'm still showing about 170. That's about right. So there you go. That's what I'm getting. I can remember playing with this one here, like I said, in the airplane, ages and ages and ages ago. Oh, never mind. My temperature says 0. That's not going to be right. Let's scroll down. That's got to be what the problem is. Yeah, look at that. 167. I'd call that pretty dang close. So you can get your true airspeed right off of this, and then of course you can see your ground speed, and if you really wanted to start digging further, we should be able to find out what our winds were from this information as well. Turn the cursor off. Oh, look at that. True airspeed 167, tailwind of 19 knots, wind direction is 314 at 19. All things that you used to be able to do via your E6B. And if somebody doesn't remember what that is, it's a whiz wheel. Looks kind of like a little slide rule. And you can find your wind angle, your ground speed, and then what your wind component actually was going to be while you were up here, etc. You know, it's pretty slick stuff. It's essentially the way, and it's the math that's being done in the background inside of a GPS anyway for figuring out exactly where you're at, where you're going, and how fast you're going to get there. So then, of course, you would take that, divide it over by your time that you're going somewhere, and you can find out how long it's going to take you to get from point A to point B or to your next waypoint, especially when you're flying VFR and trying to use a map to navigate, which I've been told they don't even really do anymore. Oh, that's pretty slick. So here's your glide slope, ground speed, feet per minute descent, and an angle. So if you wanted to find out what you needed to do for a descent, typically speaking, we always used, half of whatever your ground speed is should get you pretty close to a 3-degree glide. But if we have a ground speed here of 184, let's go ahead and just throw that in there. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to bring this up to a 3-degree, about 1,000 feet per minute. And I would have put it at about 900 and, probably about 950 feet, a little bit less than that. But right around 900 feet per minute should get me approximately a 3-degree glide slope. And like you see, that's pretty dang close. That's just quick math for trying to figure out what you need. So if you're looking at that and you think, hey, I'm on final and I want to have a 3-degree glide slope, right? In this airplane, we're going to do, say, 100 knots. That should be about a 500 foot per minute descent. So if you do a descent, wanting a 3-degree glide slope and 100 knots, if you maintain 1,000 feet per minute, that gets you a 5.6 degree glide slope, but we can work the problem backwards, right? So let's go back to a 3-degree glide slope, and there's your 500 foot per minute descent. That's what you need in order to maintain a 3-degree glide slope. So once you get to your altitude, if you're 1,500 feet at the outer marker, or 1,500 feet 5 miles from the airport, that's what you're going to need. If you're 3 miles from the airport at 900 feet, you're going to need a 500 foot per minute descent to reach the runway at the beginning of the runway, basically. To reach the ground on the runway, the landing zone, you need a 500 foot per minute descent all the way down until you're around out in your flare. That's a quick, easy way to do it. Like I said, just take whatever your actual ground speed is, and then you can subtract, or you can divide that by 2. So if you take 1,000, or 100, sorry, if you take 100 knots over the ground, make that 50, add a 0 back to it, and you get 500. That's your 500 foot per minute descent. That's your 3-degree glide slope, and you'll use it everywhere, and the math works if you're doing 400 knots or if you're doing 500 knots or 6. Whatever you're doing, it works. So easy way to figure out how much descent rate you need. Pretty simple. But I do remember as a kid that these GPSs had all this stuff kind of hidden into some of these extra systems. So that's all the calculations page, it looks like. Let's go to the next one, see what else we have. State Nav A. I'm not sure what that one is. Not sure at all. Okay, moving on. Actually, hold on, let's go back. Station +1. I'm thinking it must have to do with... Yeah, it's the RAIM. I was going to say it has to do with RAIM. It's got to be. So it's talking about navigational performance and how you can see the navigation error. This is probably the satellites that it's seeing inside of the constellation, where they're at. Positional error. That means it's very, very accurate at this time. Power cycle is 8. Okay, I guess that's how many times I've turned this thing on and off. Oopsie, go back. Update database on ground only. Sweet. Trip planning estimates, so you can figure out where you need to go and how much time. Guess that's it. We're back to the first page. Let's see what we have over here. It's distance and time. Active, this is where we're going. Montgomery. Elevation will be 200 feet. Little crummy layout. 10, 28, 21, and 3. So those are the short of the runways. So 10, 28 is going to be your big one. 9,000 feet hard surface versus 3967 for the other. Approach tower, clearance ground. Flight service and ATIS down here, 2068. I need to go back to sleep. Alright, so you see here we swap from 70 to 65. In order to get to the other one, you want to right click in order to pull out to the little knob, and that's going to give you the opportunity to change your frequencies in the back by less numbers. 120.682675. How dare you not allow me to get all the way to it? That should work. Com 1.
Montgomery Airport information, Mike.
There we go.
1600 Zulu. Wind tree 14 tree. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 18. Dew point 11. Altimeter tree 028. ILS Yankee runway 28 in use. Landing and departing runway 28. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back, hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have, Mike.
And we heard Mike, but I wanted to get that altimeter again.
Montgomery Airport information, November 1600
November.
Zulu.
New one.
Wind tree 14 tree. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 18. Dew point 11. Altimeter tree 028. ILS Yankee runway 28 in use. Landing and departing runway 28.
Runway 28 it
aircraft
is.
say direction of flight.
We'll swap that over. Let's go ahead and bring up our chart. Montgomery. Approaches. Let's pull up this ILS Yankee 28. You know that's going to be the LIDO chart. I want an FAA chart, please. ILS Yankee. That's a big blurry mess, so let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit so we can read it. 108.5 will be your frequency. We'll put that in. Swap that over. And of course, we'll have to swap this to nav mode again, as we talked about earlier. But 108.5, 277 will be the final approach course. Our touchdown zone is going to be 197 feet. The airport elevation is 232 feet. Let's see here. Notes in approach lighting systems. That's not going to be a factor. We're not shooting this as a real approach anyway because there is no weather. If you had to go miss, though, we do a climb to 700 feet, a climbing left turn to 3,000 feet direct to Montgomery VOR and hold there. Continue the climb in the hold. Attack and aircraft continue direct to 3,500 feet on Montgomery VORTAC. 126 to Shady, which is 15 DME. Hold there. But yeah, so it looks like we're going to be climbing up over to Montgomery and hold while we're there. And let's see here. What is the frequency for Montgomery? 112.1. Just in case we need to swap over to that after going missed. Looks like for this approach we're going to be starting at 2,000 feet. That's where we're going to be at T-Bach intersection, which is going to be 5 miles from the runway, and then we'll start that descent all the way down to the runway, which I said fill elevation is 197 feet. And towers over here on the left-hand side, I imagine that's going to be where we're going to find everything else as well, and it looks like it's going to be an uphill slope. Not a whole bunch, 0.3 degrees though, so the ground will come up and meet us. That is all. So yeah, there we go. That should be pretty simple. We'll probably go down to about 1,200 feet. Let's go ahead and set that up. Safe altitude around here is going to be 3,500 feet. And it looks like, do they have any towers that should be a factor? River will be up to the north. Something crazy. Should be pretty slick. Pretty easy. There's the river, obviously. Airport's just past that. What are we showing? 14 miles away. We'll go ahead and start a descent down. Towards the field. Then we'll be landing back on 28, so we'll probably just enter on a downwind and go from there. Not going to pull the power back. Just going to kind of let her go by herself at speed. We'll let her creep up. It's nice and smooth out here, so nothing for us to worry about. Now, other things to notice, if you see that airport right over there, and that's one of the things that we really haven't done inside of the game, because I'm basically flying point to point here. If you're out here and you're flying around anywhere, one of the items that you really are going to have to look at are other airspaces, because there are other airports. I mean, this one here is nothing important, but you would have to start worrying about airports such as this one that's going to be sharing an area with Montgomery. I think it's Air Force Base over there. Okay, MXF. Yeah, Maxwell. That's kind of what I was thinking. Anyway, so you've got the Air Force Base right here. You've got the airport right here. And it's got this joint use setup. So you've got to kind of pay attention to where you're going, because, yeah, you will get yourself in trouble. The FAA, I don't say they love to violate people. They'd actually probably rather not violate anybody. But if you go out zipping around and busting airspaces that are important, you will get yourself in trouble. So yeah, if you're doing a flight anywhere, definitely make sure you take a peek at where it is you're planning to fly VFR beforehand, so you don't go through somebody's airspace, somebody's restricted area, etc. Because, yep, that's a big deal when it comes to aviation, and they'll take great pleasure in reminding you that you violated their sovereign space. So there you go, Air Force Base right there. Our airport right ahead. 1,000 feet to our assigned altitude here. Our pattern altitude of about 1,200 feet. Call it 13 is what we've got in the box. We're going to cross over midfield. You can see the tower right there. I'm going to go ahead and take us to a heading mode. And I'm going to move us ever so slightly to the right, so we can just kind of cross right over the middle and intercept the left downwind for our runway. So that said, let's bring up that chart again. 277 was our course. Let's go ahead and swap this over to nav mode. Swing the course around to 277. That looks like 280, so let's go back 3 degrees. That's the wrong knob. There we go. So that should be about 277. Bring our heading back just a little left. Like I said, we're going to cross over to the south side of the field, and then we'll just kind of roll from there the rest of the way on. Yeah, really digging this airplane, though. It gives you a great opportunity to go about flying around, covering distance pretty quick. I mean, granted, I'm sure that I could have done it even, you know, in the base airplane of the game, because there is a Bonanza in here. The only thing I don't like about the Bonanza that they have in the games is that they have it equipped with the G1000. And while I love the G1000 for how amazing it is from a user standpoint, it doesn't give me the vibe that I really enjoy when it comes to flying, and old school steam instruments are awesome when, you know, they're cool, you know? I like my airplanes to have lots of knobs and switches. Alright, we'll hit up that downwind. Power's coming back. It's out. Here's the gear horn. Underneath gear speed, gears coming down. Got my 3 green lights. Clouds coming in. We're about a half, or about a dot high, half a dot high. You see that low clouds are coming right around. So if I was to arm the approach mode now that we've got everything switched over, let's see if it does it. It may not. We'll see. Maybe just haven't captured it yet. I think it should have at this point, though. Watch the power lines. Power is out. We've obviously made the field. That was just unacceptably smooth. Really kind of good for really not trying for that. And airplane just naturally slows down. I guess we'll make a right turn up here and head on in to the ramp. I'm trying to think if I've been to Montgomery before. I think I have. I just don't remember this place. We've got trees right here in the middle of the airport. Wonder if that's accurate. Lots of buildings over here. I'm almost certain I've been here. Actually, you know what? I think I might have been here recently too. Doesn't look like this. Whoever has decided that that is the height that you make hangars has never been to an airport. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for watching. We are here on the ground in Montgomery. And our next leg will take us, I think we actually break out of the state here on the next leg, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But I do think we do. Did they add another airliner? I mean, I obviously see Spirit there, but that tail's like Allegiant. We're going that way. Everyone gets to go out, and I'm sure you guys have probably all seen it. If it's there, that is Allegiant. It's gotta be. Yeah, it is. It's like that tail is most definitely an Allegiant plane. I never knew Allegiant was in here. I know that, of course, United's in. That's Republic over there. But yeah, I know Spirit because you see those all the time. You see United. I had not seen an Allegiant bird. Isn't that something? Hello, guys. I'm going to take this gate right next to you. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Pretty slick. Also slick. I'm getting 60 frames per second right now, just so we're clear. It is always fun. All right. Yep. Here we are. Okay. Well, hey, welcome to Montgomery, Alabama, on this most recent journey. My apologies for apparently not being able to speak properly this morning. I don't think I've had enough coffee yet, but I'm going to remedy that soon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Enjoy your simming. Happy simming. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. And I hope you guys are all having a great time. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you.